Hello, welcome to another sharing story. Tonight we have Chris Cochran. I'm so thankful for him to come and share some time with us and taking time out of his day to be able to come and talk to you guys through this platform. And so really enjoyed the time that I've had with Michael and Jeff already. And so looking forward to our time together, Chris, tonight, just to be able to chat with each other. So we'll just jump right into what was it like growing up for you? Tell us a little bit about your childhood and help us get to know you a little bit better.
Well, first, I just want to say thanks for doing this because I've listened to Michael and Jeff's and learned a lot about them. And I think it's a great way to get to know a person just through their stories. Myself, I was born and raised in Springfield. First 5 years of my life, we lived on the corner basically at Sunshine and Campbell, little house there. And then we moved just south out to Plainview National area, which is out there by Cherokee Middle School, which at the time when we moved out there, I attended Greenwood for a couple of years, and then we ended up going to the public school. So I went to Cherokee Elementary and Cherokee Middle School, and then Kickapoo High School.
Okay.
So, living out on that side of town, did piano lessons here in Nixa. It was a very, very small town at the time.
I'm sure it looked a lot different.
You've seen so much growth out here. Grew up in the church. I asked my mom last night, I said, we attended East Grand Church of Christ. At the time, it was would be the northwest corner of Barnes and Grand. And some point in there, I do remember, I was still pretty young, they built their new building that they're in now. Mm-hmm. And we moved to the opposite corner, but same church. I asked her why we were there, because my grandmother went to Broadway and Madison, and she said that my dad was a school teacher, and when they moved back to Springfield from one of his teaching jobs, they just decided to go somewhere different. My mother was raised at the Broadway and Madison congregation. So we attended East Grand, and I don't remember for sure what the occasion was that we went to Broadway and Madison one Sunday. But that was the Sunday I just had been thinking about it, decided it was time to be baptized. So I was baptized by my father because the preacher had no idea who I was, As a young man, my father baptized me at Broadway and Madison. So that night, my parents placed membership, which my mom had been there for, as growing up, that's where they attended.
Yeah.
They lived in that area. I don't know if you know anything of that church. Goes to the whole history of Union Hill.
Yeah.
But that church goes way back. But, my grandmother, they moved to Springfield. My grandfather, I didn't know, he died before I was born, but they owned a grocery store in town. And so that's why they moved here. And then it was kind of in that area. So that's where they had bought their house. And so we went to church, or she went to church there. And so we started attending Broadway and Madison. That's pretty much where I grew up. Because I would say, my years at East Grand, the best thing I remember was my family went to church at East Grand, and I sat in the car and thought about my life choices and how I could behave better through a 45-minute church service to an hour, because I was the wild, rambunctious one. But when I got over there, had some great Bible classes. They were small. I mean, it was all the kids in one class, which might be as many as 10 and as few as 3 at times. There wasn't very many. So we attended over there for a long time. And actually, we attended till that church ended at Broadway and Madison. Like I said, I was very active with the youth group. We did all kinds of stuff growing up. So that's what I did a lot as a preteen teen. I've got an older brother that's 4 years older than me. So he did a lot of the driving, and we just went along. But that was kind of my church upbringing. And then outside of that, I did play some sports. So we had an open field behind our house. So we played baseball and stuff in the field back there and rode bikes. Long ago, there was a Trantham's bait shop that was on the corner of Fremont and Republic Road. We'd ride our bikes up there, buy baseball cards, and every once in a while buy some minnows or something and go down, ride back down to Springfield Lake and do some fishing. We went over that way a lot, fished at Springfield Lake, James River all the time. just riding our bikes. There was nothing in that area back then.
Yeah.
So you could get away with riding all over the place.
Oh, man.
And then also joined Cub Scouts. So I was a Cub Scout, got my Arrow of Light, transferred over to the Boy Scouts. I'm an Eagle Scout. So I got involved with that stuff. And so I did a lot of the camping, hiking, canoeing, high adventure kind of stuff, doing that growing up. But like I said, as I got older, I mean, I was in Scouts till I was 18, but my youth group activity, there were so few of us. We were a very tight-knit group. So we hung out a lot. And I've got the scars to prove it. But
Part of the wild and rambunctious days that you mentioned.
We had a Halloween party one night, and coming home, we bought the telephone pole on the corner of Sunset and Fort, where our church is at now. And I ended up with 29 stitches in my forehead.
Wow.
It was a 61 Chevy Impala steel dashboard. Hit it pretty hard.
Oh, man. And how old were you then?
I was a seventh grader.
Okay.
So, 11, 12, 13, something like that. Yeah.
Goodness.
But we were a very close-knit group as a youth group. And so those are some of my fondest memories growing up, is just always doing something with them. And it wasn't just Sunday night, Wednesday night. We'd get together, go to movies, we'd do whatever, throughout the week. So one time we hosted the VBS, decided once we were done, we'd go to a movie. So we went to the old Tower Theater and saw the initial showing of Star Wars at the Tower Theater in Springfield. Had no idea what we were going to see when we went. We just walked up and it's like, hey, this is new. Let's go see that. So,
man, you might not be able to. I have Star Wars decor all throughout my office, so that's so cool to be able to have that experience.
It was just blew our minds watching this movie. It was so far advanced for the time, and you watch it now, and it's like, well, it was okay, but these new ones are so much better.
Oh, well, that's so cool to be able to have that close-knit group to just be able to do everything with, as you said, host the VBS and then go watch a movie afterwards.
Yeah. Spend all day. And then as they got older, one of them went to OC, and so we'd go down there for your spring sing and stuff, and we'd stay in the dorm rooms with him and sneak out and run around Edmond, Oklahoma City that night. Come back. A lot of fun memories of that. Of course, I always went to the Soul Winning Workshop down in Tulsa with all of us pile in a car and drive down there, and there might be some adults with us. There might not, but I guess during that time at Broadway and Madison, when that preacher left, his name was Charles Mackey, and he had the two boys. The one went to, like I said, Oklahoma Christian. The other was older and moved out by then. So he left, and Dave Dowling came to Broadway and Madison. He was the youth minister at Kansas Expressway.
Okay.
He became the preacher at Broadway and Madison. He was hosting a camp session at Happy Hollow. And so he'd ask some people from Kansas Expressway. And then we got to Broadway and Madison. He said, why don't you come out and be a junior counselor at my session? So, sure, that sounds like fun. So I did, and that's where Kim and I met. We were both counselors, and she was a member at Kansas Expressway, and David asked her to join. So that's where we met. So we're kind of a Bible camp romance, but we were older at the Bible camp. But so that's how we met. It was through the Bible camp. And then, like I said, so my history, one of the questions later on that you're asking is, how did I find Union Hill? Well, I was at Broadway and Madison when we merged with Scenic and Weaver. I was a song leader at Broadway and Madison. I remember that first Sunday walking in at Scenic and Weaver. Robert Curley's up there leading singing. I said, hey, I never have to do this ever again. It's like, he's good. And my dad was he was a music teacher. So leading singing for him was nothing. So, so they had them and I was off the hook. And I've done it a few times since, but very seldom do I ever, even attempt it.
It's kind of funny to hear just how many of the guys that we've talked to have even though they're I didn't like leading singing, doing the song leading, but I had to do it because there wasn't too many other people doing it at the time.
No, and that Broadway and Madison congregation, I always tell people, it was a dying church, literally dying. It wasn't that people left. It was a neighborhood that nobody was really moving into. It was just the membership was literally dying. And so that merger with Scenic and Weaver was a great thing for both, because at that time, Scenic and Weaver was still kind of a community church out there that wasn't growing in that area, wasn't growing as much, still some, but it wasn't the big explosive growth in town. So we started meeting at their building, sold ours, used that money to seed, and bought the property at Sunset and Fort.
Okay.
And that's when, so then we built the Sunset building and started there. And somewhere in that period of time, I was young, I didn't keep track, but my dad became one of the elders at the church.
At Sunset?
So he was an elder, I know at Sunset some, and probably at Scenic and Weaver, whatever, before we went there. Somewhere in that period, my dad was one of the elders at that church.
So just to clarify, because I hear a lot about, I'm not from this area, so I hear a lot about like the other churches that were around that are no longer around. I think it's really interesting that goes kind of how deeply connected a lot of these churches are that we don't realize are as deeply connected. So just to make sure I have it. So you started off with like Broadway Madison.
Yeah. And that's in that area, to give you an idea where that's at, since you're not from around here, north of Grant, or north of Grand Street.
Okay.
And west of Grant.
Okay.
So kind of in between Grant and Kansas Expressway.
Gotcha.
It's back in that neighborhood up there, which is still more of either an older or an impoverished area.
Yeah.
You know, there's, So.
And so you had that church that was, as you said, kind of literally dying, not people leaving, but just the aging out and just not having the young families to come kind of pick up and support. So then there was a merger between, that might be a more business official way to say it, but
that's basically what, we merged the two to make one congregation, and we used
and that was
Scenic and Weaver. Which, if you take off north from this building and just stay till you get to that four-way stop up there, that'd be Plainview where it comes across. If you'll take the left there and then right onto Weaver, it's right there on that corner, or Scenic, and then at the corner there, Weaver.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of, now it's more considered in the battlefield area, I guess, but it's, that southwest part of town.
And so was it pretty quickly after the two churches joined together that they bought that land and became Sunset? Was that always the plan, or is that just kind of how it came to be?
I wasn't
aware,
enough of that, but I think that was probably the plan, was to do something, because at that point we became a sizable congregation. We weren't big by any means, but good size, and there was nothing else in that part of town, because at that time you still had South National that's up there, on the MSU campus, which is now the East Sunshine congregation. They moved out there. You had North National up there on the north side of town, Kansas Expressway, but there was really nothing south at all. So it just made sense when they were able to get that property at Sunset and Fort to buy that, build the building. We could move there, and it's in a more the growing part of the city at that time. It was that neighborhood all around that existed, but there wasn't much when you got past that. I mean, there wasn't a lot south and west of there.
So some pretty good foresight and intentionality on, hey, there's already churches kind of farther north, and we see growth kind of happening.
Yeah, all the growth in Springfield's going on the south side, and all the churches are on the north central part of the city. So let's make this something big in the south.
Let's go where there's not anything they're supporting.
Yeah, and obviously if you look at that building at Sunset, they build it fair size, but probably never dreamed that it would be what it became. And so then at some point in there, before the church planning or any of that kind of discussion, I don't know if Dad was an elder still when they looked at this property, but I don't know what they did at their meetings. I remember going to the men's business meetings, because we really didn't have elders at Broadway and Madison. A lot of time when we were there, I mean, off and on. So we'd have men's business meetings, and I just remember, I just thought it was the way of business that you sit and you discuss things for 20 minutes and then you table it till next month and move on. Decisions weren't made, and so, and then now suddenly you've got an eldership that are making decisions, and we're coming together, and we're moving, and we're trying to revitalize and capitalize on a market that's on the south side of town that's underserved. There's nothing out there, and so that's where they did it. But I mean, that wasn't a big building when we initially. Sunset wasn't that big. It's good size, but I mean, we had a nice fellowship room that's now part of their auditorium. We had a nursery and something else on the other side that's now part of their auditorium that they've expanded, the sides way out because of the need as it grew, because it did start growing a lot. Kim and I were the first wedding in that building.
Oh, really?
We were the first ones to get married there.
Wow.
And Dave Dowden was still there. He married us. And then, like I said, after he just decided it was time to move on. So it was time to move on, go somewhere else. And so, we had another couple preachers in there before Joe came and actually started then more with the idea of planting churches and doing that stuff. So,
well, that's such a cool, rich history to have and be able to witness the amount of growth that has happened, not only in the community at large. I can only imagine, as you said, you're riding bikes in places that you could not ride bikes anymore now.
I wouldn't even think of that.
But to see that type of growth in the community and see the church grow with it, growing up in a place of, oh man, we had a dying church, and being a part of that church, and then joining together to see something come of it. And then being able to be married, the first one's married in the building, and just being able to continue to see that growth of being here for your whole life is a pretty cool testimony and thing to be able to witness.
And, needless to say, when Kim and I met, I took her away from Kansas Expressway. So we did attend there some, but not nearly as much. But yeah, it is. It's amazing what God has done with all that, because seeing churches, and I haven't experienced it myself. We had the foresight to at least say, we're dying. We've got to, we can't just end it here. We've got to go. And there was another one over there, I don't think still meets, that was West and Lincoln. I don't know if that congregation exists anymore. Yeah. I don't think so. But it was farther, north and us somewhere up there. I couldn't even tell you where it's at. But I mean, at that time there was several small congregations, and of course they're all pretty well gone now. As what happens, especially in some of the neighborhoods, that when you start having the growth in, Plant here was perfect timing because Springfield kind of stopped growing, but Nixa was just exploding. Yeah. And so Kim, was born and raised in Clever. So, when we first got married, we bought a house south of the Finley River off of 160 down there. We rented a duplex for 3 months before we bought the house. But here in Nixa, we bought that house. And then when Adam was born, we figured, well, we better get closer to somebody to get him on and off the bus and things like that one day. So we were able to purchase 10 acres of land in Clever and moved over there where her, closer to her family, to kind of help us with the kids, because we both were working. So,
well, I want to go back to something that you mentioned of your experience of going to Broadway in Madison. Sure. And that's when you said, I just decided then. How old were you when?
I honestly do not know. I really don't. I was young.
Yeah.
But I remember Bible classes and things talking about it. And I was just sitting there, and like I said, I don't know if there was anything that was really said in the lesson. I it just struck me that it was time. I should be doing this. I know this is what I'm supposed to do. I've studied and learned this. It's time. And now, I can't say that it probably maybe was the right time. I don't know. And that's the situation with a lot of people too. Is you come out of the water and you're excited, but then as that excitement wears off the next day or two, you're saying, I don't feel any different. Did I, what? Why not? I mean, I understand that spiritually I'm right where I need to be, but I don't have all the answers still. I don't know any more than I did. I'm still. So was it right? And I think it was, but I don't. But there's always that doubt as whether it's And so I appreciated what Jeff said about just that mental rededication sometimes, because I have to stop myself and think the same thing. That I don't think it was invalid. I don't think it was wrong, but did I really change and accept as much as I need to? And I need to go back and think about that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it's a common thing for a lot of us to experience, especially for those of us that have grown up in the church, to then getting baptized at a younger age. I was 12 when I got baptized, and kind of the similar experience as you said of I remember I was on a retreat and everyone was taking communion around me, and I was just like, why am I not doing this with them? There wasn't, I don't remember there being I don't remember there being a huge lesson or anything. I just remember thinking, I know what I need to know. Why am I waiting for something? But then, as you said, you have that kind of spiritual high of the excitement of being baptized and making that decision. And then a week later, you're like, do I still feel different? Is there something more I'm missing from it?
What did I not? Yeah. Because I was probably about the same age. I would say I was probably 12, 13 years old. I mean, and yes, like you said, it's just, you feel different for a little bit, and then you don't really feel different. And the difference is just that excitement that I know I've done what I was supposed to do, but that didn't necessarily change me. I'm not, and I don't have the answers. I don't know everything.
Yeah.
I'm still got to mature.
Yeah.
And so, and I think that's it. Like you said, there are things you realize you're missing out, and you know why, and you need to rectify that. And I think it's interesting you said that, talking about growing up in the church, because I remember sitting in a small group and we were talking about that and talked about, I grew up in the church, and somebody else was sitting there. He goes, I envy you growing up in the church, because this is what you've known. And this is, I didn't. So I was lost out there. And then, now I found my way, and I wish I'd had it all along. And I would say just the opposite.
Oh, okay.
I wish it was more that aha moment sometimes that just struck me and said, hey, I'm not doing right. I need to change. I need the church, So I think there's it goes both ways. I mean, there are some people that, grew up in the church and take it for granted, and there's some that don't. And then there's some that didn't grow up in the church that don't want any part of it, and others just want that's what I'm searching for. I need that connection, that that feeling of a purpose, a reason.
Yeah, the grass is always greener on the other side mentality of, I grew up in the church, and I remember as a teenager thinking man, I wish I had a better testimony, right? I didn't come out of drugs. I didn't go do all this terrible things, and then had that aha moment, as you said, being able to come out. And then someone that was lost and was like, man, I wish I didn't have all of that stuff. And just how lucky are you that you grew up knowing God from an infant age? And I've never thought about that until you said that. Of oh man, how lucky it is so lucky that I had a family that grew up in the church. And that doesn't invalidate the stories that we have, or it is, but to be able to share that and then recognize, man, the people, when I think my story and I wish I had that aha come to Jesus moment, they're the other people looking at me and being like, man, I wish I had just the comfort and knowledge from infancy that you had. It's kind of good to be able to come to a church to share those moments and be like, oh no, you wish what I had and I wish you had. So apparently we're all wishing for something different.
I want somebody else's life. Mine is not what I wanted.
Yeah. And I think that's cool to be able to recognize that. And then just also knowing that as we grow older, as you said, wasn't this magical unveiling of I have all the knowledge and I know exactly what to do and what to say now. But part of the growth process of baptism of I'm still learning now, of being 20 years, 30 years, 40 years later, to be able to go down that road and think, I knew what I needed to know then. I knew who Jesus was. I knew what he did for me. I understand it a lot deeper now as I'm older, but that still doesn't invalidate the fact of what I did as a preteen or teenager. My baptism is still as real as the person that got baptized at 30 years old. That was complete 180 in their life.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's maybe even harder having grown up in the church, thinking that, like you said, I know right from wrong, but I didn't necessarily experience that much of the wrong, because I didn't grow up that way. I grew up with, without, like I said, the drinking, the drugs, the whatever, that the path that they go down. So
again, I think it's just nice to take a step back and come to understand, like, oh man, it is good that I grew up in a place that I knew Jesus from a really young age and come to truly love that experience, and others wish they had it. And so going kind of forward to now more, you were at Sunset and they're talking about planning. Joe Bright came in and we're really with that kind of fire for church planting. So what led you and Kim to decide that, Union Hill is going to be the place that I think we end up going? How'd you find Union Hill in that sense?
Well, confession time, I guess, too. When we built the house in Clever, we were both students. Kim working on her, I think she was still working on her bachelor's degree. I was going to go to OC. I just convinced myself, and then I met her and decided MSU would be fine. I'd stay in town, and then just basically, all but flunked out of that. So, went to work, and I was fortunate enough to get the job that company I'm still with 39 and a half years later.
Oh, wow.
But so working full time, I went to school, and we ended up at SBU in Springfield. They had a remote campus here that we could attend, and she started going for the nursing. So she went to a 3-year nursing program, so she has a diploma but not a degree, and they would just pay her more if she'd get her college degree. So she didn't lack much of getting it. So she started going there and then found out they were going to offer some business classes. So I went to SBU. And so I did night classes, work days, did night classes from 5:30 to 9 o'clock, Monday and Wednesday. I'd have a class, and then Tuesday and Thursday I'd have a class. And they'd run them for half semester. So we'd get I could take 12 hours in a semester, 2 classes for half the semester, and then switch, but I had them. So never went to church on Wednesday night for 5 years while I was in college. Never. I never understood how a Christian college like that would have classes on Wednesday nights, never on Friday. Never had no classes on Fridays. Now, main campus, I'm sure they did, but down here, no classes on Friday. It was just Monday through Thursday. And then we built the house while we're students, while we're working full time. So then we had the kid, and we had Adam, who's 2-ish when we were building the house, so we had our hands full. So attending church was a hit and miss kind of thing for us a lot. And it just we weren't necessarily in the right place. We lived a ways away. It was real easy just to stay in bed and not get him up and disturb him, whatever. So we weren't being as good as we should have been. So when they started talking about the plant, I remember Steve and Amy came in. They were at church that day, and we got talking. And of course, they have, at that point, I guess she had just had Abe, and Kim, I don't remember if we'd had Jason yet. They're pretty much the same age. But, we got talking and kind of hit it off with them and said, I think we should go. It's closer. It might be better for us just to go with the plant. Now, we didn't meet with the church when we were at Sunset because I sat with Mom and Dad, and my little brother, we all sat in a pew in the back together. And so we always went there, but our intention all along was, when they go, we're going. So, and we did. And then, like I said, when we got there and the 60 people, everyone had to do something. There was no hiding in the background like you could do at a sunset with, the 500-600 people that they had or whatever. I don't know if it was that big then, but still, it was big enough that you kind of hide.
Yeah.
And if we missed, we missed. Nobody noticed, other than my family. It was like, well, we missed you this morning. Where were you at? I was in bed.
Yeah.
But, and so, here a little more accountability, you had to do it. So that has really strengthened our faith just in that alone. It was, we want to get up and we come. We did then too, but it wasn't as convenient. So, it was easier to show up late or not at all and not get in trouble for it. So that was kind of the draw to us, is it's close, it's going to be easy. And like I said, once you got there, you had to do stuff. So, early on, when they first met, it wasn't a couple of weeks later, they called me and asked, hey, we'd like to meet with you. We would like you to be a deacon of something, what, now you tell us. So, originally I was one of the deacons for the elderly. And then that became elderly, and I helped out the worship. And then it became elderly and the worship. Yeah. And then eventually, I was kind of still doing that up to the point to where I became an elder here. I was still the deacon for the worship. Yeah. And the elderly, I think may have still been on the sheet, but I wasn't doing much of that. That was, there was a few other people that were kind of handling. I'd make some calls. I would do stuff for people, but that was one of those duties that I probably let slide I shouldn't have, and I feel bad about it now. But at the time, I'm thinking, they're coordinating the worship and all that stuff all the time. And I almost had written that off. But we did do stuff, still. It was still a small congregation. You kind of had to. So I came with the plant the first Sunday, but I wasn't with them before at sunset. And then, like I said, we've been here, want to be here. There's nothing about this church that I don't love. And I love the serving that I've had the opportunity to do from day one. Things to do. And I think for me, that's the biggest key, is a person's got to get in and get active. And if they do that, then they want to be there. And it's so much easier to be here and grow and mature in your faith if you're actually actively participating in church rather than just sitting in the back, getting your lesson and going home.
Yeah. So needing that at that time of, man, it was a commute. You had a lot going on in your life. And it seemed just like an answer for you guys to be able to hey, this is going to be maybe something that we really need at this time. We have a lot going on. And as you said, it's easy to sneak in and sneak out of a congregation and only have your family holding you accountable. And it's who cares? They're just family. I can say whatever I need to say.
It's just mom.
Yeah, it's just mom pestering me right now.
And I can say that now, but she will listen to this. So,
hi, Mom, if you're listening, quit pestering. No. But needing that church and just, man.
At that point in our life, we needed the church then. I don't know that we would have ever admitted it till, but now looking back, it's like we needed it. We needed that direction again that I won't say we gave up on by any means, but it wasn't the priority, and it should be the priority in your life. And, there was a lot going on. That all settled pretty quickly after that, and it was all fine. In fact, probably before we came down here, a lot of that had settled. But as far as the busyness, but our attendance not necessarily was any better. So it was great for us. It was a stepping out, and it was a step out for everyone that was involved. That made, like I said, you had to be accountable because people had to be there and had to do stuff. There's classes to do. There's, I taught junior high for a couple of years. I did taught classes. I helped pass trays. I helped, a couple times I'd lead a song. I would, prayers. You had to do something because the same 4 or 5 guys couldn't do it every week.
Yeah.
You had to rotate some.
Yeah. And I also see that in like how you and Kim still act, that there's work to be done, and still being able to see that as you were asked to be deacon early. And I remember when we came in of you and Kelly doing all the worship organization and what a big job that is to be able to do it. But then still that spirit of, man, we went from not going to church and not being committed and kind of sneaking by and having excuses that we all, I think, would say valid excuses: school, kids, building new house, all those big things at one time. But then to take that commitment of that's not who we want to be. Union Hill can be a place that we can restart and make it easier to access so we're not falling into that habit. Looking back at seeing how Union Hill has grown through that time of starting with 60 people, and we continue to grow still in this time. I feel like we're in a huge area of growth. One of the things I've been asking the other elders is, like, even though we're growing and there's a lot of great things happening, what's one area that you would love to see kind of continue to grow? What would be a part of Union Hill that you would like to see maybe grow even more?
Well, I don't know. I think I'd like to see more people, more hands doing more of the work. I think it would be good for them to, get more involved, find somewhere that you can serve. It doesn't have to be a huge time commitment. It doesn't have to be, a ministry that's all your own, that you started something new. There's plenty of them you can get involved in. But I think, like I said, very involved in the church. Kim and I both were, for forever as kids growing up, to, just missing, because I'm in college class on Wednesday night. I can't do that Bible study. I don't drive back into town on Sunday night. I don't, to where suddenly you're not doing anything, and it becomes easy to miss out, and I think that we have a lot of members, and they show up. I think they want to be a part and want to be plugged in, but they don't know where. So I'd like to see, some way of just, getting them plugged in, finding a place that they can do something, even if it's learning a new skill or just showing up for, I know Jeff was talking about the auto ministry, and Michael too mentioned it, there's coffee and donuts out there. You can come watch and just visit with us while we're doing it. You don't have to know how to do this stuff. I mean, there's places that you can go. I appreciate the ladies sewing group that has brought in some of the teens at times and said, okay, we're going to teach you how to sew and do some of this stuff. I mean, there's things that can be done. There's ways that people can get involved. And I just like to see those ministries grow, not necessarily in the number of. I mean, I'm always open to new ones for sure, but many hands make light work. Yeah. And so the more people we can get involved in some of these, the better they're going to work. So, and once you get that buy-in, I think that's when you realize the importance of the family that the church is, because if you're just coming, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, doing showing up when the doors are open, and leaving when it's done, you don't feel that connection that I think you need, as when you're up here on a Tuesday or Wednesday night or a Thursday night or whatever that activity is, going on, because there's stuff up here all the time. Yeah. That's when you really feel the family better than if you're just coming on Sunday morning to church, Bible class, going home. You need to feel that connection. And I think we do a pretty good job getting people in, but it's still hard. It's easier to ask people to do things than it is to ever get them to volunteer. Yeah. So, I mean, it's, I learned that working with the Scouts, and I'm on the board there, and it's, show of hands, who's going to do this? And it's, crickets. You got to, but if you start pointing to people, it gets done and they'll do it. So,
And most of the time they're happy they did it.
Yeah.
It's not like twisting their arm, but it is
It's not like the service hurts you.
Yeah.
It makes you feel better when you're done, but you didn't want to do it. I mean, that was somebody else would be better than that. You can do it better than I can. But it, like I said, you feel better because you did.
Yeah. And not only are you serving other people, I like how you said, like, we want more people here doing things because it benefits them. Like, I think even from your story of how you and Kim were not doing a whole lot of stuff, and when you came here, it's like you felt that connection and you got involved, and it has been, I would assume, life-changing because you're still here doing things all the time and have lifelong connections and friendships with people because you got involved. And so it's not like, I mean, we need people to do things at church or else they don't get done. But we don't want you just here working because we want you working. We want you here because we want you connected and a part of the family.
Yeah.
And because I always tell our youth group, when you're not here, you're taking away an opportunity that I had to be better because of you. And so when you aren't here at church, well, for whatever it is, you're taking opportunities from other people. You might be the exact person that the Spirit has led that person needs. And they might be the exact person that you needed at the time. And so coming to serve here, to grow here, to not only grow God's kingdom and ministry, but also to grow yourself.
Yeah. I mean, that would be my ultimate goal for this. I don't care if this church closes its doors, locks it up, and goes away tomorrow, as long as the people have grown to the maturity that they're going to go find somewhere else or do whatever they have to do. It's that would be the goal. And as a shepherd, I mean, that's our concern, is to make sure that our flock is growing and maturing and is taken care of. That's what it's about. And those opportunities for us to serve you and you to serve us is an opportunity, like I said, going both ways.
Yeah.
Because your absence takes away my opportunity to serve. Your service was great growing for you, and it helped me, and we can, and that's the whole idea of the church from the early church. Was they all gave everything they had into a pool and took care of each other that way. And that's what we still need to get to, and that probably is the one area that I see that this church needs some growth in would be getting more service out of people. Doesn't have to be, like I said, doesn't have to be anything big, major. Just an extra guy to show up. Even if he doesn't do anything, he's there for the support and the camaraderie of the group in that service.
Yeah, we need you to serve, but we also know from experience you need it as well. And so being able to understand that and know, hey, you don't have to do anything. We're not asking to grow in that area of like, hey, start a totally new thing that you've never done before. Hey, Wednesday night meals are always happening. Come and wash dishes. Come and cook a meal. Whatever it is. Least
just show up and enjoy the fellowship time before.
Maybe if it's just even coming and participating in the fellowship meal you've never done before. We want more people involved, not because we're wanting to grow Union Hill. It's because we want to, as you said, we want to grow people and grow the kingdom. It doesn't have to be on our name.
Right. Wherever they land, I just hope that they grow and get fulfillment, whether it's here or somewhere else. I'd prefer it be here.
I mean, there's a spot here.
Yeah, we got a great family. We have good times together. But if it's somewhere else, if it's better for you, then it's got to be better for everyone. Whatever's going to work best for this congregation, this church as a whole, but most important is whatever's best for you. You've got to do for
and that's
you.
Always the prayer of find where God can use you to serve. And I think there's a spot here for everyone at Union Hill, but if that's not it, that's okay. Find that place that you can serve.
Absolutely.
And so then, speaking of Union Hill, and kind of to end our time together, of what's been your favorite part of being here as one of the family members of Union Hill?
I don't know. There's so many things, but I mean, I think the camp out and some of the the trunk or treats and the stuff where we can just all come together, and I mean, I love our worship time together. We got some great Bible classes. That's great, but it's the other times too, that the family times together. I mean, growing up, we always ate together as a family. Just about always, sat at the table and we ate. And there's something to be said about just being together brings that closeness. As we got older and had other activities, it was harder to come together that way. And so you looked forward to it when we actually could sit down, together. And that's kind of the way it is here. I mean, those times that we can actually come together, like I said, the worship times are great, but those other times when you can just go the barbecue, the family cookout, all those times where you can just come and just talk and socialize and get to know each other and mingle and play games together, whatever that is, have fun to grow those relationships. Because this is, that's the important part of any church is the relationships with the church, with God. And, you got to have, on all levels, the strong relationships. And then once you've built those relationships in times of struggle, your family's got your back. So, and that's kind of, I've seen a lot of it both ways. And that's the thing I love is that this church really is a family. And I mean, a great place to close it, I guess. We're one big happy family. We laugh together, we cry together, and we all praise God together. And the glory that He's given us, to us through His Son.
Yeah.
If I can get that out right. But see, I mean, we all have that grace and peace through Him, and we can just enjoy each other's company.
And it is always great to be able to come together outside of those worship times and Bible times, because that is what makes this the community like that. It's my favorite part, as one of my favorite parts as well. Chris, thanks for taking your time this evening to do this.
You doing this.
I really appreciate it. And as I've told the other guys, Union Hill wouldn't be what it is without you as one of our elders looking after the flock. And know it's a lot to do, but you do a wonderful job. So just really appreciative of the spirit that God has given you to lead and serve our church. So really thank you, and thank everyone for listening and following along, and look forward to the next story next time.
Thanks, Caleb.